My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Thank you once again to Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is what I have my dogs on, and I would highly recommend it to anyone out there looking for a high-quality premium performance food to put your four-legged hunting partner on. Go check them out. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply, your one-stop shop for whether it is your training or your hunting needs. Go check them out. They have about anything you could ask for when it comes to training your gun dog. www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. I've said it before that, it is my absolute favorite apparel that is out there. Not only the hunting clothes, but my everyday clothes. I'm just more comfortable. I can stay comfortable for longer no matter what the element. So go check them out, www.sitkagear.com. Well, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Duck Dogs, and I apologize for being a little late this week. I've been playing major catch-up from being gone this last weekend at the hunt test. Like I told you last week, I had the hunt test coming up. It makes for a long couple weeks, and I'm just playing major catch-up. So apologize for being late, but better late than never, right? So I kind of want to recap the test because I think some really cool things happened. First off, super proud of my group. They handled everything I asked them to very well. I thought they really stood out. I thought, they made an impression on a lot of people that were there, and I was very proud of that. Had a ton of compliments. Actually got a text message from one of the judges just telling me how impressed he always is, with my dogs. And, stuff like that really, it makes you feel good, right? Because not only do you think you're doing a great job, and everybody tells you you're doing a great job, but, to put yourself in a situation like that where there's a lot of great dogs and your dogs still stand out and you get that kind of recognition, that is a cool thing. At least for me, this is what I do every day. So it's something I take a lot of pride in. So, was very, very proud of them. But there were a couple of things that kind of came up that I thought would be neat to go over and talk about. And for those of you who don't know, I was running an HRC test this last weekend. And there was a guy there that I won't use his name just because I didn't ask him if I could talk about our conversation. But I think his dog's probably 4 or 5 now, and he's for the last few years, been at these tests and watched a lot of my dogs run, and he's kind of picked my brain, and we've talked about a lot of different things over the years. And he asked me a question that I thought was really interesting, and I want to dig into it a little bit, which is, he asked me, he goes, "Josh, why do you run tests?" And kind of a little bit of a head scratcher for me, because I know this is what he loves more than anything. And I'm like, well, why do you ask that? What do you mean by that? And he's like, well, man, you guys are cranking at the kennel. You're doing this all day, every day. You've proven everything with your dogs. You've ran your trials. You've done the tests. You've done the pointing dogs. You've done your retrievers. Are you trying to prove something? Why do you continue to come out here and do this? I thought it was a really interesting question. Because to be truthful, the last thing I wanted to do last weekend is go stand at a hunt test. You spend all day, every day in the sun, in the heat, working and training. And, and I try to keep in mind that most everybody that's there Like, this is what they've been waiting for this, right? Like, they count down the days. They can't wait to leave. They pull a camper. They make a weekend out of it, which is all awesome, right? I love that. I love that they're that passionate about their dogs. I love the community feel that comes out of that, because I think that's one of the things specifically in HRC that sets them apart, and that's why they continue to grow, because they've been able to have a real family vibe, and, people want to go spend time, there. And so I think I like that, and I definitely keep that in mind. But on the flip side, I think a lot of people can understand, my point, where it's not what I'm like eagerly, chomping at the bit to go do on a weekend. But here's why it's important to me. It's important for me to keep my dogs out in front of everybody, showing what they're capable of. It's important for me to be out there validating what I'm saying, because I really feel like there's more and more trainers, more and more breeders that are making these claims about their dogs, what they can do, how awesome they are, how great they are, but they're not out there proving it. You can talk all day long, but unless you go prove it, I don't understand where the validity comes from. You got to go prove it. You got to go show it. And if you guys have followed along in this podcast series, you understand my conflict in the pedigree side of things. Like, I'm not saying you have to do it for the title, for the pedigree. But what I'm saying is that it does show that your dog is at the level that you claim that they are. Now, I have my, twist that I take off of that, as far as all these other things that I feel like are very vitally important on top of, that proof. But you got to prove it. And like I told him, I said, I feel like if I don't go do this, then I'm just another one of those guys, right, that claims that my dogs are this. But, I just think there's something to be said about that. Being out there, showing it off, showing the proof. Proof's in the pudding, right? I think there's a lot to be said about that. And, I think that when you look at the long-term look, because, I don't need, like, all my studs are all titled out. They don't need the titles, but I'm continuing to prove where they're at. And I also think that it betters us, right? Like, I think it pushes me more, knowing I'm going to be in front of a bunch of people, in the next couple of weeks, and my dogs need to be at this level. Now, we're training every day anyway, but, I need a little extra motivation sometimes to push me. Like, I think that's a good thing. Competition pushes you, right? Always has been for me anyways. And so I think that there's a few reasons why I continue, to test. And I do enjoy it. Like I said, it's not something I'm like chomping at the bit to go do, but it is something I enjoy. And it is something that I know my dogs enjoy, and I do like, putting them in those situations. The test, to me, went about how I expected, as far as, my dogs were very prepared. They ran very well. Brock's just my standout. He's just that gamer, like, in whether it's, athletes or dogs or whatever, like, some kids are gamers. Some dogs are gamers. Like, that's just, like, Brock knows he's there, and it's like, whew. Like, I swear, for those of you who are unfamiliar, finished test would be 3 marks, a blind, a diversion, an honor, and you have to do on land and on water, and you have to pass both, to get your pass for the day. There was one setup that was very difficult, and not only did Brock mark everything perfectly, it was almost like he knew where they were. Like, he was 100 miles an hour to that point, slow, boom, picked it right up. 100 miles an hour, slow, boom, picked it right up. Like, it wasn't like he was burning by it, stepped on it, and cranked, 100 miles an hour in a dead spin, and, there it was, right? Like, he knew right where those were. I mean, he just made it look easy, and it was not easy. And so, I could talk about I could talk about all my dogs. I want to talk to you about the dog that I was most proud of over the weekend. And he was the only dog that did not come home with his ribbons. And that was Strike. Strike's first test that he ever ran was this last weekend. For those, again, you follow along. I've had him for probably about a year and a half now. And if you go back, if you have not listened to the Strike story, which I think is like episode like 4, 5, 6, maybe somewhere in there, go back and listen to it because it's a crazy story. But to think that a year and a half ago we were there, not even a year and a half ago, but just say a year and a half ago, we were there. And now we're here running his first finished test, right? Incredible. But that's the kind of dog he is. And, so some of you might be going, it was his first test. Why you run him and finished? I don't like started. I don't like seasoned. I'm training for finished. That's where I want to be running. I understand the whole point thing, that, you get your season points because they're easier to get. Like, I get all that. But I just like competing at that top end. And I don't want to put my dogs out there until I believe they're ready. Here's why I'm so proud of Strike. First test ever. We have no idea what to expect, right? And even though I know he's prepared for this, as I've talked about before, as far as, that young dog coming into it, my expectations were none. I did not have expectations. I didn't have, these big aspirations that he was going to go in here and go 2 for 2 and all stuff, right? I went in there knowing who Strike is, knowing he's more than capable, and I wanted to watch how he responded to this situation because there's a lot going on, right? You've got a bunch of other people, a bunch of other judges, the judges sitting behind you, which he did not like. He actually sat down and kind of kept looking over his shoulder like, why are these people behind me and what's going on? But I want to tell you what happened and why I deemed this such a successful weekend for him. We sat down on that first day in the water setup. It was, triple mark was, big angle entry, hard angle entry down the left-hand side. That was the first bird that was thrown. I mean, it was really hard on that angle, on that edge. Then he came over, and there was a really long bird that he had to cross this big channel, and then get up on the bank, and then carry that probably another 40 yards. And then came back, and that first bird was kind of a shorty, but over the channel again, probably 40 yards. So, boom, boom, boom. He's completely steady. Knew he would be. And I send him on that go bird, the last bird, which is the short one. So, he's going over there. And all of a sudden, the wind does this big blow. And it was from left to right, and that left bird, which was the first bird thrown, that scent comes all the way over, and in mid-swim over the channel, he turns and he goes, whoosh, I smell it. And he goes all the way to that first bird. Now, I'm kind of sitting here at this point going, do I want to handle him back to that first one? Because he should keep going on the first one. But I know Strike is a confidence dog. What I mean by that is that if I fight him too much, especially if he's already in a situation that I can tell by his body language he's unsure, I'm going to frustrate him. I don't want to frustrate him. I want this to be a success. So I let him go over, pick up the first bird thrown. Wasn't crazy about it, but did it. All right. So send him back on that first bird then. He comes back. He looks right over there. Okay, he remembers where that is. Okay, send him back. Strike. Well, he missed it just about 5 yards on the wrong wind side, and he kept carrying it too far. Then, again, because wind's going left to right, he's past that bird a decent ways, and I don't know how because he was a ways from it, but his head whips around, and he's going to go to that second bird thrown, the long one. Now, I'm not letting him switch again. I gave him a chance on that first one. Not happened. Tweet. He stops, looks at me, handle him back in, picks up that bird. That right there was a success. He didn't fight me. He didn't say, Dad, I know where this is. Let me go. He stopped in mid-stride, handled back, picked that bird up. Was great. Okay. Then he came back, line him up, send him on that middle bird, right to it. And he, again, just like, he had to have been so close. But again, wrong wind side, missed it. And now he's hunt. And he's kind of getting further and further from the area. Again, knowing strike, this is where it's so important to know your dog. Knowing strike, the more he hunts and the more he's unsuccessful, the more frustrated he gets. And the more frustrated he gets, the more of a chance we have to kind of go off the rails. So I let him go for a minute, and I said to the judges, I said, guys, I know I'm out. Tweet, because I can only handle on one mark all day. And I already did. I said, no, I'm out. Tweet. Handle him back. One cast, boom, right on it. Picks it up, brings it back. We failed. Because I handled him on 2 marks. Strike didn't know that. Strike came back thinking that this is the best thing ever. Dad, did you see what I did? Look at how great I am. Hoorah, rah. And of course, I'm sitting there cheering for him, coming back. This was a win. And because it was still our test, I said, guys, do you mind if I run the blind? No, that's fine. Boom, it was a big channel blind. We had to keep him in the water all the way through channel. He crushed it. We walked off the line knowing we failed, and I was on cloud 9. He was on cloud 9. Okay? Day 2 comes around. We come up, land series. Okay? First bird is from left, on the very left-hand side. Comes out left to right, behind some hay bales. There's a bunch of hay bales in this field, so you got to kind of mark, really well. Comes out, boom, marks. Lands in front of, there was about a 30-yard stretch of tall grass. So it's short grass, tall grass, short grass behind it. Before the short grass. Second mark, long bird in the short grass behind the tall grass. Probably had to push through another 40, 50 yards past the short grass. Then came back, and there was a short go bird, probably 50 yards, kind of in this little thicket, right? So, boom, he's great. He's steady, picks up the first bird, great, comes back to the second bird, and gets hung up in the grass. The reason he got hung up in the grass is because both dogs that ran before him, I don't know how this happened. Both dogs ran before him when they were running back with the bird, dropped that bird in that tall grass. And of course, they pick it back up and they finish, but they dropped it. 2 in a row. So naturally, he's hunt, where he smells where those birds were dropped. Can't blame him for that, right? Well, he was in there, and again, I know him, right? So I let him go for a little bit. He's not going to do it. Tweet. Looks at me, give him a back cast. He carries that back cast beautifully, picks that bird up, brings it back. Okay. Now I'm coming back and I'm thinking, okay, where's the wind? If I need to shade him downwind so he can pick this thing up, he's obviously using his nose a lot, right? So I'm going to shade him downwind. So I line him up, but I try to shade him downwind of it so he can catch it. Strike. He's taken. I mean, I had a smile on my face because he's going to step on this thing. He's about 10 yards from that bird, and I cannot tell you what happened on this one. His nose went a hard left, and he went on a dead sprint for about 30 yards, and he thought he smelled something. Now, he is off at this point. So, now, in this situation, I could have let him sit and figure it out, let him sit and work. Maybe he works back to it. Maybe he picks it up. Maybe we get it to run in the afternoon. But that is not my style. As soon as I saw that, I said, guys, I'm out. Tweet. He stopped. I cast him back. Again, one cast. Okay. right to it, brings it back, hoorah. What do you think he does on the blind? A blind that dogs have struggled with the whole time up to this point. Probably 12, 13 dogs have struggled with. He lines it. Could not have run it any better. Lines it, hits the stake, picks up that bird. I am ecstatic. We failed. I'm ecstatic. This is a dog that, 14, 15, 16 months ago had a crazy traumatic experience. The work that we have done over this last year, he has handled so well. And now for his first test ever, he's unsure. He's not quite understanding what's all going on. For him to go handle it that well, I was incredibly proud of him. Incredibly proud of him. I talked about how good Brock was. I think he handled this second day. I thought he ran better than Brock. Now, yes, it's hard to say that, right? Because Brock did everything great, and he has his, got his pass and has his ribbon. But the things that I was, looking for, with the understanding how he was running his lines and how he was handling, I just thought he was fantastic. He doesn't have a ribbon to show for it, but I could not care less. People get way too wrapped up into what they perceive as success. Most people that weekend would have perceived my weekend with Strike as a failure because we failed. I thought it was one of the best things that could happen. I went into it knowing this might be an expensive training day. The reason being is that I lose my entry fee and I lose everything. I don't care. I'm using this for a learning situation. And if he needs my help, I'm going to give it to him. I want this to be a fun, successful weekend for him. I want him thinking that he did awesome. He did great. He loves this, right? Because what's the alternative? In Strike's mind, he did everything right. Now, if I'm looking for ribbon or bust, he comes back and I'm upset. I'm pissed off. He's sitting there going, what the heck did I do? Maybe I don't like this. Maybe I'm not sure what I did wrong. Maybe next time I'm going to no-go him because I don't want to do it wrong. Maybe I'm going to lose enthusiasm because this wasn't fun. I believe how I handled that is going to make him that much better of a dog when it comes to hunt tests in the future. I almost called him a hunt test dog, but he's not a hunt test dog. He's a hunting dog. He's not a hunt test dog. But it's going to make him that much better for tests going forward. I think this was an incredibly successful weekend. Yes, because he came home with a pile of ribbons. Yes, because he came home with some new titles on some client dogs. Yes, because I was able to show off, my personal dogs. But even bigger, yes, because Strike kicked ass. He was awesome. Those ribbons will come. I am not worried about that. But you can't teach the things that I saw. He had poise, he had control, he had focus, he had energy, he had drive, and his training stuck. I guess that you can teach, but he applied his training in the situations that we were training for. So proud of him. The only dog that didn't come home with a ribbon, and I could not be more proud of him. I think that's interesting. I think it's something I would challenge everyone just to kind of change their mindset on that. If you are a hunt tester, don't think this is all about the ribbon. To be honest with you, ribbons don't impress me. All the time you go to shows, and we have Game Fair and Pheasant Fest and DU Expo and all these places. A lot of kennels will have all these ribbons. They'll sit and then it's like, look at what my dogs can do. What do I care about a ribbon? Right? I'm looking long term here. Strike is a special dog. And I'm going to continue to develop him the way that I think he should be to continue to move forward at the right pace. I could have let him go. And he probably likely could have come home with a ribbon. Or two. But it would not have been to my standard. one of the judges on, because I was had multiple dogs running and finished, one of the judges, it was the second day, I came up and he's like, Josh, why did you handle that dog the second time? Okay, again, if it didn't make sense, the reason that we fail is because we handled on 2 marks. You get 2 triple marks, 6 marks. You can only handle on 1 all day. So when you handle on the second one, you're out. So why did you use the second handle? He's like, I understand that he smelled something, but he could have come right back. And I was like, he could have. But I know what he's capable of. And this was about my standard. This was about me wanting more out of him and me knowing him, me wanting this to be fun and me wanting him to be successful. I could have let him go. But what happens if he gets frustrated? And then all of a sudden, he's kind of panicking because he's wanting to find this thing to make me happy. What if he blows off a whistle? What if that leads to a cast refusal? What if there's a lot of things this could lead to. Let's make this be a success. You got that bird in your mouth. Hoorah, rah, you come back. You're awesome. Sometimes having your own personal standards is more important than having that rib in your pocket. I understand what you're going for, but long term here. Think long term. I love this weekend. I loved it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to enjoy the 4th of July weekend. I'm going to try to check out, spend some time with my kids, spend some time with my family, give my dogs a much-needed couple days off. But we got to finish out this week first. So as you go into the holiday weekend, finish strong. If you're going to use the weekend to train, enjoy it. Be careful about fireworks. Please, please, please. Here's a note. Do not, this just pisses me off. Do not be that guy on social media that is sharing that stupid meme that's like, oh, that, your dog is scared of fireworks. That's cute. Mine's looking for birds. Shut up. You don't know someone else's situation. We have had fantastic gun dogs that don't like fireworks. Don't be that guy. Don't let your ego get in the way. You don't know someone else's situation, right? It just, sorry, a little upset. It irritates me. Like, are you that cool? It just bothers me. But be careful with fireworks. Especially those of you with young dogs, do not put them in a situation where that's going to be an issue. Lifelong situations can come of that. Please, 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 please think about it. Do not make that be an issue. Be careful with fireworks. Be safe. Be careful with the heat if you're going to be training. It is very hot up here. I'm sure wherever you are, it is hot. Please think about it. Do not let your dog in a dangerous situation. And have fun. Happy birthday, America. See you next week. And a shout out to Lucky Duck for sponsoring this podcast. If you have not checked out the 5-star crash test rated kennel, both on large and intermediate, do so. And they also have a brand new fan out for those of us that are training in hot weather. Go check that out. That fan is awesome. www.luckyduck.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to Yukonuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.